We are back. Another market open live stream. I wasn't here yesterday morning, had a bunch of meetings and stuff, but we're back. So, welcome everybody. If you are here, it's good to see some familiar names Ashley, Kian, Juliet. Welcome, guys. Nice to have you here. Amal. So, we're going to go over a bunch of stuff because there was just market moving news that came out about 30 minutes ago. And there's a lot that's we need to go over because the market is moving a lot. Market moved yesterday. We had Nvidia report, but it's really this jobs report that is moving the market the most. So take a look at this guy here. If I pull it up, the September jobs report. This is a huge one. So obviously, the September jobs report was delayed because we had the government shutdown, right? So it's finally out. The delayed September report. So again, this isn't going to be that useful for the Fed because it's from September. We want that October jobs report, but yesterday the White House said, or maybe not the White House, but the government said that that October jobs report is not coming, which is not great. So the delayed September report shows the US added 119,000 jobs, much more than expected. The unemployment rate is at 4.4%. So, good news is bad news, right? We have to read this within the context of where we're at right now. So, you would think amazing. The US economy, we're creating new jobs. This is great news. This is everything that we want to see. But the truth is, the economy is actually doing well. Jerome Powell is not going to be able to cut rates as quickly as Trump wants, and that's not going to be good for the market. So, if we take a look at the breakdown, the US economy added substantially more jobs. Payroll 119K, up from 4,000 lost jobs in August. So, a huge rebound. The consensus was 50,000. The July total was revised down to 72,000, a decrease of 7,000. Okay, not the biggest deal. In addition to the headline, the unemployment rate edged higher to 4.4. So maybe it was 4.3 before. So it's the highest it's been since October 2021. That's interesting. 4.4 is still quite low, but I'm surprised that it's the highest since 2021. A broader measure that includes those not looking for jobs or working part-time for economic reasons edged lower to 8%. So the lazy edged to 8%. Average hourly earnings, da da da. Okay, so this is a really big deal. And this came out about half an hour ago. So if we take a look at how the market is responding, it's actually a little bit different would expect the market to react. I think it makes sense. It's kind of a buy the rumor, sell the news situation. As I've been saying almost every single morning, what's been happening is a month ago, the rate cut expectations for December, a 25 basis point cut was over 90%. Everybody thought it was a done deal, that it was a given. But slowly each week, excuse me, those rate cut expectations have been decreasing. Okay. And this news, this really good jobs report, is going to further reinforce that rate cuts aren't coming. So remember, rate cuts equal good for the market. No rate cuts equal bad for the market. But that's not really what we're seeing right here. See, the dollar is, dropped a little bit here. You would maybe expect a stronger dollar, but I think what's going on here is a classic buy the rumor, sell the news. The market is already starting to get comfortable with the idea that we're not getting a December rate cut, and that's going to lead to a stronger dollar. So we're seeing the sell off as a result, right? Same thing here. Stocks have been dropping. The last, couple of weeks, we've had, a decent sell off in stocks here. This is kind of a reversal of the move. Bitcoin's in its own world doing its own thing. But I think that's why we're seeing the reaction that we are. But ultimately, very, very interesting, this jobs report. And if we take a look at Poly Market, you can see the absolute massive spike here. So the orange is the odds of no change. So before this, there was a 46% chance of no change in December. There was a 52% chance of a 25 basis point cut. News comes out and then boom. So now there's a 64% chance of no change and only a 34% chance of 25 basis point cut. So you can see here, the odds of a cut dropped by 31% and the no change odds increased by 31% as well. So really, this is what's moving the market right now. The market's still gonna sort of digest this, see what's going on, all that good stuff. But that's why we got this pop for now. So S&P up 1.09% in pre-market hours, right? The market opens in 25 minutes, but Bitcoin is down as well. So that's what's going on with that. So really, that's the biggest piece of headline news. Let me know in the chat if you guys have questions about that. If you understand why the market wants those interest rate cuts, why it's moving as it is right now. But that is the main headline. If we take a look at yesterday's numbers, it was a sort of, it was a green day. Everyone was waiting for Nvidia. That was the most important thing that the market was waiting for. So S&P up 0.38, Nasdaq 0.59, Dow flat, and Bitcoin had a nasty day. So let's talk about Nvidia because all eyes were on Nvidia. It was really, really important. Remember, I say it almost every morning. You don't have to trade Nvidia. You don't have to buy Nvidia stock, but it is the largest company in the world with a $5 trillion market cap. So if it has bad news, it's bad news for the entire market. Okay, so they reported their earnings after hours. Everybody was waiting for their earnings. Overall, it came in quite strong. Revenue of 57 billion versus 54 expected. Earnings a buck 30 a share versus 125 expected, and the stock climbed over 5% after hours. I don't know if I can pull that up actually. Let's see, NVDA stock. It climbed pre-market. Yeah, it was up 5%. So 196. So it closed at 186 and it's at 196 now. So that's what's going on with Nvidia. But here's the thing, okay? $4 trillion, $5 trillion market cap. You have to think just a big picture, right? If you want to invest in this stock, does it make sense that their market cap is $4 trillion, but their revenue is only 57 billion? Okay, 57 billion in the quarter. Okay, that makes sense. It's such a high valuation. I mean, is the PE ratio is 53, which I mean, there are crazier valuations out there, right? You can see here, right? 53 Palantir. Palantir's even high. Palantir is like ridiculous. Palantir is, 386. Who knows what Palantir actually does? But that's what went on with Nvidia. If we take a look here, he actually said something really interesting. The CEO, I always forget his name, Yang, something like that. He said in terms of demand, um, Jensen Huang. Yeah, so this right here. So he said, CEO said sales of the company's next generation Blackwell chips are quote off the charts, and cloud GPUs are quote sold out. So he said that demand is really strong. Now, it's interesting that we pay attention to this because obviously the reason that the market's been selling off is because of the fear of an AI bubble, right? Of these companies being overvalued. Michael Burry has been shouting this from the rooftops of saying that stocks are way overvalued, that he had these $9.5 million short or put on Palantir, and he went crazy yesterday, Michael Burry, just saying absolutely crazy things. We could pull it up on Twitter, of basically saying that all of these AI companies are just basically it's a scam of one company is giving money to the next and they're just circling it around, and that there's no true demand for these chips. So kind of interesting, just to see that, and that's why this is so important. That's why everybody wanted to see, what was going on with the earnings from Nvidia. If we pull up, actually, because we're talking about it and because it's interesting, we won't look at every single tweet that he put out because he just closed Scion Asset Management. So remember that from The Big Short, that was his fund, Michael Burry. So now he's putting out all of these tweets. I don't know if he had. I don't know if there's limitations to if you have a fund. I don't know if there's limitations to what you can and can't say. But he's been tweeting a ton lately. But his thing is always hard to find. Michael J. Unchained, I think it is. Yeah, here we go. Let me pull this guy up. So again, we're looking at this in regards to, the overall picture of the market. He might not be wrong. He might just be early, right? So he's put out a bunch of things, right? One more. OpenAI is the linchpin here. Can anyone name their auditor? Since the beginning of 2018, Nvidia earned around $250 billion net income, but it bought worth of stock. Okay, so this, obviously you need a lot of brain power to understand this, but it's this guy here. Look, Take a look at this. Every company listed below has suspicious revenue recognition. The actual chart with all the give and take deals would be unreadable, right? The future will regard this as a picture of fraud, not a flywheel. True end demand is ridiculously small. This is what I was saying. True end demand is ridiculously small. Almost all customers are funded by their dealers. If you can name OpenAI's auditor in 1 hour, you win some pride. It's crazy, right? So OpenAI, $500 billion to these guys, to Microsoft. And then Microsoft gives the money to Nvidia. Nvidia is given back to OpenAI, Intel. It's crazy. I don't know who made this from Bloomberg. Absolutely wild. You might be right, but the markets can stay irrational longer than you can stay solvent. That's what I've been saying, right? That's the famous quote. That's the famous quote that we have to remember. So totally wild what's going on with Nvidia. Moving on, we have the jobs report, which we looked at. Like I said, there's no October jobs report. So for the first time since 2013, the Labor Department said it will not release an October jobs report. So shutdown issues mean missing data. Unfortunate. So look, this was yesterday. The Fed decision in December, there was a 30% chance of that rate cut. And now, hold on, 30% chance of that rate cut. And now there is a 35% chance. Interesting. So yeah, because 30, I thought it dropped more this morning, but weird. So that was the jobs report we looked at. And now Bitcoin. Oh my goodness. Bitcoin broke below 80 or broke below 90K, broke below 89K. So it is now sitting 30% below its October all-time high. We take a look at Bitcoin here. You can see on the 1 hour, even the 15-minute, we're getting another almost 1% drop on the day here. So you can see on, so it dipped below, it's 30%. It's down 30% from its all-time high. So on average, though, the numbers said, I looked it up, on average, Bitcoin sees a 30% plus correction every 3 to 6 months. So that's 2 to 4 major drops per year. Listen, I think that the long-term fundamentals have not changed. The debt keeps rising. It doesn't matter who the president is. I think the biggest takeaway of Trump being president is that it doesn't matter who is in office, right? Blue, red, does not matter. The debt is going to continue to go up. So no matter who the president is, debt is rising. Rates are high, but will eventually fall, and liquidity cycles always come back. So I bought some more Bitcoin yesterday, and we'll see what happens. Let's take a look at the chat here. The screen is black. I apologize. It will come back. Sometimes it just lags a little bit. Somebody said it will hit 200K in 45 days. Remember the guy on X? That's crazy. Trump wants to. Amal says, why does Trump want to fire Powell? Trump wants to fire Powell because Powell isn't cutting interest rates as quickly as Trump wants him to. So Trump wants those interest rates to come down, and Powell is, I don't know if stubborn is the right words. Powell's just looking at the data and says, well, we don't want to stir inflation. We don't want inflation to come back, so we can't cut too aggressively. Stocks is safe haven after gold, according to me, Juliet says. I mean, if you're in a country where you're concerned about inflation, holding some assets is definitely better than holding cash. Do I think the stock is overvalued right now? If you're referring to Nvidia, yes. I mean, stocks are, the index is so high right now. Greed Market says, question, anything good to invest, stocks, ETFs? Don't worry, I don't take it as advice and stuff. Listen, I'll tell you exactly what I do. When the index drops, I buy the index. Specifically, I buy the ZQQ. This is the NASDAQ. I'm in Canada, so it is hedged to the Canadian dollar. So this is what I buy when it drops. It rarely ever drops. So I bought in April, right? You can see here we're down 5.5%. So it's maybe slowly starting to get a little interesting. So I buy ZQQ when it drops. In April, I bought Coinbase at $180. So I was up nicely. Now I'm up less nicely. But my average price was $180, and I buy Bitcoin. So ZQQ, I own Coinbase. It's the only individual stock that I currently own. Maybe we'll have to talk about MicroStrategy because that's getting nailed. And Bitcoin, I've been saying in the Pip Munch emails, I've been saying in the live streams that I am buying Bitcoin right now. I still have cash. I'm still going to keep buying. I've got this 80,000 level on my screen. Who knows if it's going to get there? I have absolutely no idea. But yeah, I am buying Bitcoin. Yeah. Trump seems helpless after shutdown. I think Trump is losing a good portion of his base right now. What he said about Thomas Massey, the Epstein stuff. I think and what he said about H-1B visas. Saying that there's no talent that America doesn't have the talent that they need. I think he's really starting to lose his core MAGA base. So that'll be interesting to see what happens with the midterms. I mean, he wants to give everyone $2,000, literally buying votes. But yeah, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. What else do we have? Lark 3.0, the first prop firm to pay you a salary even in drawdown. So the only thing I have to sell you, we launched this on Monday, so you could be down and you can be down negative 3.5% and you can still earn a salary. So it's pretty cool if you ask me. It's what I wanted when I was trying to become a full-time trader. You could see here, if you give me a moment, the monthly salary calculator, right? So on a 100K account, you could be down as much as 3.5%, and your monthly reward can still be $500. So pretty cool. Keen says approval rate down, lost NY governorship. Yeah, I mean New York is always very green, anyways, or very green. Yeah, I guess you could say maybe they're green, but they're very blue, right? New York is usually pretty Democrat. Julia says, what about if I only take 2 trades per month? Julia, why don't you email us, support@larkfunding.com? We're trying to see, we have more updates coming, obviously, right? Like I say, we always take the feedback that everyone's been leaving us. Right now, it's 5 days of 0.5%. Why don't you shoot us an email? I'll personally answer you, support@larkfunding.com. And if you're interested in purchasing an account, but you only trade, 2-ish days a month, let's see what we can do for you. Let's see. I'm so unsure about Bitcoin. Can't convince myself that it won't end up as a flat tire. Greed marks. Read the Bitcoin Standard. Do I have it? Yeah, I have it actually. This book right here. Let me make sure you can see it. This book. Read this book. Okay. This book made me more money than I ever made in trading, than I've ever made in business. Read this book. Okay. Just read it, and not sponsored. But yeah, read that book. Very, very much a game changer. So, Ashley, the max allocation is 200K. 200K. So Bitcoin 0.4%, a little bit of a rally back there. S&P still up. What else do we have going on here? So Lark 3.0. So I showed you guys the monthly profit calculator. That's all that I have to tell you. Mal says, I told my father to invest in crypto, seen the crash. He doesn't know anything about investing, but I feel like it's a good time. Yeah. Buy when there is blood in the streets. That's what they say. Yeah, buy when there's blood in the streets. Greed marks. This is like considered the Bible for Bitcoin. So it's a quick read. It's not that long. It explains everything you need to know, and it's absolutely a game changer. Mobile dev, welcome. So let's see what else we have. The yen is falling apart. This was an interesting one. So let me pull up here. I don't know, USD yen. See what the chart's looking like. My goodness, that is crazy. Why didn't anybody warn me about this? What's going on with the yen? Literally insane. Oh my gosh, look at that chart. This is the daily. What an absolute rip. It's at 157.6. Literally insane. Literally insane. Okay, so the yen is falling apart, and it is a warning. Okay, so the yen is now down to its weakest level against the US dollar since January 15th. So it's basically at its low, its year to date low. Let me just look at this chart. It's insane. And so what's going on? Also, all the Japanese government bond yields surged to record high. So I want you to understand what's going on here, because it is a warning for what could potentially happen in the US. What happens when a government has so much debt, when it has just no growth, and it tries to add more stimulus to their already massive debt, right? We can already see this starting to happen in the States. What happens? Okay, so what's going on in Japan? Japan's central bank has kept ultra low interest rates, as many of you might know, right? They had literally negative interest rates for a while other major banks like the Fed raised aggressively during the post COVID era. Okay. So that rate gap, the difference between the interest rates in the US and the interest rates in Japan, okay, has pushed capital out of Japan and into higher yielding assets like in the US. Okay. So this weakens the yen because there's less demand for it, right? So if you're an investor, you have $1 million. Are you going to park it in the Japanese yen, a savings account that will yield you literally nothing? Or park it in the US and earn, 4% in a savings account? Obviously you're going to put it in the US, right? And as a result, right, there's going to be no demand for the yen. Everyone wants to hold US dollars. Okay, so that's reason number one. Okay, number two, okay, Japan rolled out a massive new stimulus budget, which is stoking debt sustainability fears right as yields spike to 17-year highs. So their bond yields, the government bond yields, are at 17-year highs. So ultimately, what this means is investors aren't treating the yen as a safe haven anymore, right? I would always say, shorting pound yen during, volatility, during bad news is usually great. Buying the yen, shorting a CAD yen, excellent trade when there's, a lot of fear. But this is sort of breaking down, right? Long trusted narratives break down when fundamentals crack. So this is what we have to for the US, right? So what happens when a country takes on too much debt and it's just unsustainable low rates, right? Unsustainable deficits eventually matter. Yield spikes can trigger investor flight. Safe haven status isn't permanent, and stimulus isn't a free lunch. So again, I think Michael Burry, he's not wrong, or Ray Dalio also talking about the U.S. debt crisis. He's not wrong, just a little early. So that's what's going on with that. Let's see if we have any fun stocks. Okay. Robinhood just rolled out short selling. So if you're in the States and you use Robinhood, you can literally short stocks now. I'm sure that won't lead to any problems at all. Google, remember Google was purchased by Warren Buffett, now his 10th largest holding. So it ripped 5% after Gemini 3, and the stock hit $300 for the first time. PayPal is officially the cheapest valuation in its entire public history. So the stock is down 30% year to date, which is just painful. Painful year to date, 30%. So that is not very nice stuff. And then we have Jack Dorsey, Semrush, da da da. So take a look at this nice little prop firm payout, $6,400. Pretty humble, not much, but hey, it's honest work. I don't know, 6,400 US bucks. That's a lot of money to me. Very nice way to end the year. More drama in the futures prop firm space. Let me know in the chat. Do you guys trade futures? Let me know if you trade futures, because this is pretty juicy stuff, what was going on with Funded Next. Juliet says yes. Let me know, why do you guys trade futures instead of CFDs? That's what I would be curious to know, because I feel like a lot of traders are going to futures not because they like futures, but because they don't trust CFD firms. Okay, so this is interesting. Juliet says FN futures played dirty. What happened? So this took me a while to sort of catch up. I'm not in the futures space. What happened here? So from my understanding is, if you make X amount of profit in the futures space, they'll take your profit and move you over to a live account. So if you're on a 50K account and you make $60,000, they'll take your $60,000 from the fake demo account. They'll take your $60,000 in profit and they'll move it into a live account. But apparently, with Funded Next Futures, a trader was one step away from being uncapped. So they built 60K in profit across two 25K accounts. And the reward was a $7,500 live account, which, from my understanding, it should have been a $60,000 live account, because that's the profit that they had made. So this really went around a lot. Anyone who was around for Fund and Next during CFD days knows they look for excuses to not pay traders. Yikes. Fund and Next is like one of the biggest prop firms in the world. So Amal says there's no spreads in futures. That's why. See, Juliet, is that true though? Juliet says futures is straightforward, no denied payouts because of petty reasons. But I feel like the same thing we saw with prop firms in 2024 is now happening with futures of just cutting prices. And now look, like now this drama. So I don't know if that's true that there's no petty reasons. But yeah, trailing drawdown is annoying. So definitely some drama going on here in the future space. Yeah. So that's that. Take a look at this. Sotheby's just sold the most expensive piece of art in history. So there was an auction in New York City for art. I'm not an art guy, but look at this. I've never even heard of this piece of art. $236.4 million for this. Gustav Klimt. Bildness Elizabeth Lenderer. $236.4 million. If that doesn't make you feel broke, I don't know what will. Yeah, $236.4 million. So that's pretty crazy. And Kraken is filing to go public, which is pretty cool. I use Kraken. Kraken confidentially files for IPO following $800 million raise. So pretty cool that they are going public potentially. So that's what's going on with that. Yeah, and Kean says Project X. Yeah, I saw the mess with Project X and Top Step and all that. That was an absolute disaster with Project X. So hopefully that gets sorted out and people aren't too impacted. But yeah, very, very crazy. Let's see here. Bitcoin kind of bouncing back a little bit here. So honestly, I'd love to hear you guys and your honest feedback on Lark 3.0. I'd love to hear. We sent out a survey, and asking for feedback. So I'd love to hear what you guys think about it. Don't just try and make me happy. I want to hear honest feedback of what you like, what you don't like with Lark 3.0, with the salary option, the free retry, the trading view, the 7% drawdown. Let me know in the chat. A little bit of a rally back here. S&P flat. Yeah, the market's going to open in 2 minutes. So we'll see what happens. In terms of other things going on Twitter. See the chat. Does your company reconsider accepting traders from Iran? Yeah, we definitely could. Currently Iran's not available. Why don't you send us an email at support@larkfunding.com, Ollie, and I'll see what we can do for you. Ashley, I'm really happy to hear you like the innovation. That's good. Amal says 1% risk a day is a little too tight. I think 2% would be better. Okay, so Amal, what is it specifically that you're referring to? Is that for not losing more than 1% per, like that's for the salary, or you're saying for the free reset? Ronaldo's journey. Good night. I'm from Malaysia. Yeah, it must be late in Malaysia. What time is it in Malaysia? Malaysia. 10:29 p.m. Yeah, it's late. That is late. Okay, so Amal, the salary. Okay, so you're saying that 1% is too tight for the salary. Okay, let me make a note of that and see here. 1% is too tight. Okay, let me make a note of that. Okay. Mobile Dev says, I love the whole concept, especially salary and free retry, but as a swing trader, 5 winning trading days every month might be a problem. Understood. Mobile Dev, why don't you please, if you're genuinely interested in an account, email us. we're trying to do something about those trading days. So if you're genuinely interested and would get an account, email us support@larkfunding.com. Just mention your comment and let me see what I can do for you. Ken says a new idea message retracted. Kian retracted his message. Just scroll through Twitter here, see what's going on. Yeah, keep dropping your feedback. I appreciate it. I'm with all of the comments we got, I'm collecting a bunch of hate comments. I'm gonna film a YouTube video like Prop Firmona reacts to hate comments because oh my gosh, for the most part, 99% of all the feedback was so positive, really really nice. But man, some people just like they just start calling you names out of nowhere and everything. So I'm collecting like a folder of screenshots of all the nasty things. I think it'll be a fun video. Um, Actually says a new idea is great of what Lark is offering to traders. Excellent. I appreciate that. Now let's see here. Yeah, see, look. Bad news is now good news for stocks. As the US unemployment rate surges to 4.4%, its highest in 4 years, stock futures are surging. The reality is that the Fed is being forced to cut interest rates into one of the strongest stock markets of all time. Because even as the AI revolution takes off and the Mag 7 exceeds $20 trillion in market cap, Americans are struggling. The labor market is weak, affordability is at record lows, and over 60% of Americans believe we're in a recession. This is exactly why we continue to reiterate. This is what I say, own assets or be left behind. As the Fed cuts rates to save Main Street, Wall Street will skyrocket as the Fed adds fuel to a roaring fire. We have two economies in the US, asset owners and non-asset owners. Yeah, well said. Well said. Market reactions tell you the Federal Reserve has been forced to choose between a weak economy and high asset prices. Interesting. Manu, that's very nice of you to say for being authentic and honest. That's very, very kind of you. Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate you guys being here. Gazzy says it is great innovation, even though I believe we need more than 3 months' salary. Excellent feedback. Excellent point. That was the two most common complaints we received. Full transparency is no MT5, which understandable, and that the salary is only for 3 months. So completely get that. Gazzy, again, if you're interested in an account and this is your complaint, we're actively working to see, what we can do. So again, email us, support@larkfunding.com, and let me see what we can do for you. Yeah, no free lunch. Quick question. What percentage risk should we take per trade on a prop account? I always risked 1% per trade. And if I was in drawdown, I would cut my risk in half. So in drawdown, 0.5%, be patient, work on getting it back up so you don't fail the account. But I would always risk 1% per trade. I feel like 1%, is kind of like the golden number. Everyone says 1% per trade, but I think it's good. I think the best thing you can do, though, is a risk of ruin calculator. This changed my life. Now, let me get the right one here. So take a look at this. This literally will change your life. Okay. If your win rate, you put your win rate, your average, your risk per trade, you put all this stuff. So let's say you're taking a one-step challenge, right? And your max drawdown 7%. Let's say you risk 1% per trade. You take 100 trades and your win rate is 55%, right? You might think that's really low, but it's not that bad. Okay, 55%, right? What is your risk of ruin? Your risk of ruin is 17%, which is on the higher side, I would say. It's on the higher side. But again, if you go into it knowing that I have, a 1 in 5 chance of failing, on the flip side is you have a 4 in 5 chance of passing, right? Whereas, what if you reduce your risk from 1% to, 0.75%? Right? 9.2. Just that small 25% change makes a big change in your risk of ruin, right? Or if you keep it at 1%, but your win rate is actually 60%, right? 4.2. What if your average risk to reward is, 1.25, right? All of a sudden, your risk of ruin is 1.4%. So this is an incredible tool. This has changed my trading forever because you need to know, well, statistically, if you fail, it might not be your fault, right? Losses are a normal part of trading. And so using this can really help you better understand, the game ultimately. Right. So let me drop that there. You guys should definitely use that. Ashley says, Matt, can you post that spreadsheet for how much a trader would need to make? Yes. Let me find that. Let me put the charts back up here. Let me get that for you guys. So this guy here, so remember, right? If you guys want to use this, current expenses, dream expenses, your current savings, how much prop firm funding you have, and the comparison. So this is really a fun one to use. So I will drop this in the chat in a moment, and you could just copy it and make it yourself. Boom, right there. Okay, so that's that. So yeah, so I appreciate you guys being here. I went over everything that I wanted to go over. The news, the jobs report, all that stuff, Lark 3.0. I really appreciate all of the comments. If I mentioned, email us support at larkfunding.com for any of those things about the trading days, the 1% risk, all that stuff. So again, we're here to work with you and we're going to continue to make adjustments as we move forward. So Juliet, you're not here all the time, but you were very engaged today. You left a lot of nice comments. So you win the 5K 3-step account today. Appreciate you being here. So just email us support at larkfunding.com and we will get that account sent out to you. So again, really appreciate you guys being here, and I will see you most likely tomorrow. And there's a good video coming out tomorrow, a juicy video. So yeah, so appreciate you guys being here. Juliet, congrats on the account, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. All the best.